York Times is reporting that President Trump is directing the Pentagon to use military force against foreign drug cartels, specifically those cartels that the administration has labeled terrorist organizations.
Now, the Times, which cites multiple sources familiar with this matter, says the order gives an official basis for potential direct military operations on foreign soil and sea. The Times also writes that military personnel are already weighing options for how to go about this.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio discussed the subject of foreign drug cartels last week. Let's listen.
We have to start treating them as armed terrorist organizations, not simply drug dealing organizations. Right. Drug dealing is the kind of terrorism they're doing, and it's not the only. Yeah. You know, they also are into human trafficking, they smuggle anything, and there's been nascent cooperation between them and some international terrorist organizations in the past, which pose an ongoing danger to the United States.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said she rejects the idea of U.S. military force in Mexico, saying in part, quote, "The United States is not going to come to Mexico with the military. We cooperate, we collaborate, but there's not going to be an invasion. That is ruled out, absolutely ruled out." I love that she disagrees with Trump so firmly, but then they still have dialogue like civilized people. I appreciate that. I also think that everybody is anti-cartel. This is, again, similar and mirroring the D.C. issue, except the D.C. is under our federal jurisdiction, and targeting Mexico criminals is not. We are looking at them as a terrorist organization, and they're really a criminal group, and that's how historically we've always looked at people. And so I think to go in there and not go with Congress approval and not call this an act of war and just kind of violate some international agreements that we had by just deciding that we're going to just go about this tactic and not converse with anybody in Congress about a plan here. That's, to me, out of bounds. And also, we have an ally in Mexico. Why are we doing something that they did not ask us to do?
Well, because they're not taking this problem seriously enough is the Trump administration's perspective. The cartels are a menace. Everyone agrees on that. A terrorist organization needs to be dealt with. But yes, I would be similarly very reticent to, just start, bombing another country's territory without more willingness on their part or Congress to approve it. That would be a foreign war. And what would he keep saying? No new foreign wars. That's what Trump ran on. Now, he also ran on being very clear that the cartels are bad and something ought to be done. And the drug invasion infestation is very bad. But I don't know. I think a lot of civil liberties violations can result from that, a lot of unintended consequences. If we turn Mexico into more of a failed state on our borders, that wouldn't be a good thing. A lot of our efforts to root out terrorism in the Middle East, as well-intentioned as they were, are now things we look back on and go, well, did this make the world more stable or less stable? We killed a lot of bad guys, but we also, contributed to the collapse of some governments that were far from ideal, but were better than what replaced them. So I would just say I'd be very reluctant to start indiscriminately bombing Mexico or sending ground troops into Mexico. Absolutely not. We're not sending ground troops anywhere else. No new wars, America first.
And also, there's so many nuances here that could get the U.S. in an uncomfortable situation across the board. Like, if this is not declared a war and you go over there and kill somebody that isn't like an imminent threat, that will be considered murder, right? That's like not giving somebody an opportunity to be.
Well, when the government does it, they pardon themselves for that.
Well, that's what
consider it murder.
Like, we don't want to. I don't think there could be international fallout from other countries. It's just a lot to think about when we make these firm stances and take these firm decisions, and President Trump just says stuff, or Marco Rubio kind of firmly says this is what we're doing to attack. Like, yes, this is a problem, and yes, we should handle it, but you have to work closely with the source of the problem, which would be Mexican authorities, to try to make it work. And Claudia Sheinbaum seems very unafraid to have direct conversation about what works for her and her country, and so maybe go that route without declaring something that she needs to respond to on social media.
Well, what works for us is for the president of Mexico to take the problem of the cartels a little bit more seriously than this. So
unserious, that's not an objective statement. Is she not taking it serious?
Get it under control, lady. It's your country. And if you don't get it under control, we will. But we don't want to. We want you to take it under control.
Oh,
I think that's the Trump perspective.
Sorry, Ms. Steinbaum. Still ahead. Trump spending billions on jets and ballrooms, while many voters are saying their economic outlook isn't getting any better. So I'll have that coming up next in My Lens. Stick around.